Hello everyone, and happy Saturday and Saturday 52. We need a drum roll here. If I were better at video editing, I'd be trying to cue a drum roll and everything in here. But alas, 52 weeks. Can you all believe it? We are here. When I said week 1, 52 seemed like so far away, and yet we are here. Journals done, we have glossaries, we've learned so much about ourselves. We have beautiful pages of work that we can use to make our own printable and decorative papers, and just continue to work in our journals. And just these journals will give us endless resources of ideas and inspiration. You should really, really, really celebrate today for having reached week 52. And for those of you who found me halfway through, nearly done, and you've started this process, still celebrate, because wherever you are in this process, journaling is ongoing. For me as an artist, it never stops. So welcome to week 52 and congratulations. 1 year of 365 days of art journaling. It has been an awesome journey to have traveled with you, and I've generally embarked on my 365 days of journaling solo. And I have to say, it's been a lot more fun doing it with you all and my friends. So I trust that you got a lot out of this experience and that you developed some incredible art practice muscles through journaling. I encourage you to get your new journal prepared. As you know, we're going to be doing the Gelli Junkie Dory style. And when we start off in January, the first couple of videos will be us working together to get our journals all flushed out. So no worries about that. Let's see. And then you can also go back over videos, even though we'll be working through on new journaling ideas, and the way next year is going to be set up. It's going to be set up more around techniques like I talked about. But you can start these prompts all over again. I normally do these prompts over and over and over again yearly, because I can ask myself the same questions, and in a different year, I get different answers. And then it's fun to kind of compare your journals to see how you address the prompts from year to year. So you can begin these prompts again, and you can still do it along with what we're going to be doing next year. So if you spend a lot of time in your studio, have a couple of journals going. I normally have 3 to 4 journals going at any given point in the year, with different types of journaling ideas and things going on in them. So yeah, for sure. So use every opportunity to make discoveries, note changes, and the growth that you've experienced along the way. So thank you again, and I'm ever honored that you trusted me with your talent, time this year this year together as we journeyed in our art journaling in the style of ArtMythos, which is telling our stories visually. So what we're going to do today is a little treat. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's real laid back, but I think it's going to be a technique that you're going to really enjoy. It's called Momigami. So it's a Japanese form of crinkled paper, but it makes these. We're going to make these papers that are just so soft they begin to feel like fabric. And you can use all different kind of papers, tissue papers, and this is some handmade paper, linen that I made. So we can do a lot of different type of papers. I think this right here is actually some of the oh no, this is actually copier paper. So we can use copier paper too, but look at it. It's so much more like fabric. So we'll come down to the table and we'll get started on this really easy technique, but super fun. And the type of collage papers that you can make with this is just impressive. So I will see you shortly. Alrighty, so we're going to start with some of our papers from last week, as I promised. Also going to add in some papers from art, that we did a few weeks back, some tissue paper. So we'll take one, and I'm going to show you a few different types of paper so that you can see what it's like. This is some paper that is sort of Asian paper that I've done some staining on. This is good because this is good old-fashioned copier paper. So we'll use this. No, this is actually not copier paper. This is copier paper. So we'll use this. And literally you can use any kind of papers. Plastic paper, you know, brown paper bags. I'm going to even use some of this here. And this is going to be a little sketchy because the paper is brittle. But we're going to see how that works. And like I said, you can use magazine paper. So let's start with what we have here. So I'm going to kind of work with these papers. What I am going to do is I'm going to cut them in half because I want you to see the difference. The other thing we're going to be working with is olive oil. So this is an extra virgin light. You want a light oil. You can use olive oil. You can use some coconut oil. You can use jojoba. Whatever oil you use, you want it to be a light. Don't really use a really heavy, thick oil. Now, Momigami is done traditionally with a starch paste. And that, you know, that takes a little bit more, you know, time. It's a konjac gum. But and that does different results, but just so beautiful. The quick one is oil. And so it's a lot of artists who do this technique will use oil as well. So let's get started here. So I'm going to what I want to do is I want to tear some of these in half because it's important to see what the differences are because they do, just kind of do it like this. The papers get darker. So it's nice to see the difference in what the original looked like and what they're going to look like when we're done. So I'm going to take a few of these and just go ahead and tear them in half so we can have different types of paper so that you can see. Let's take one of these just so we can see the difference. And you know, it takes a while to work them, so it's one of those kind of very meditative processes. So what I generally do is just get all of my stuff out, like I always say, put, you know, a podcast or something on and listen to some music, relax, put a movie on, you know, whatever your thing is. And just have fun. So we're going to start with, let's just start with some tissue paper. Because this is going to be the easiest paper. So we'll start with the easiest and we'll work up to the more difficult. You just want to start getting your folding techniques down. So just a little bit. You want to get it in your hand. So you see it's not that much. And the whole idea is to cover your hands with it. And then kind of just start with the corners. Just roll the corners in. And you roll the corners in because it keeps, until the paper starts picking up oil, it keeps them from ripping. And this will be even more important when we get to copier paper, magazine paper, the old book papers that are going to be more prone to crumbling. So now this is going to yield a completely different type of paper than when we just crumble it. So you just want to kind of keep on adding some oil, kind of scrunch it. It's a number of ways of doing it. And basically you just kind of work it back and forth in your hands. It's good for your skin too, because olive oil or jojoba oil just, you know, moisturizes so nicely. And you just kind of want to kind of keep on opening it. You can see where it's starting to take the oil and crumple it back up. You kind of want to just kind of keep on opening it, crumpling it, opening it, crumpling it. And it really transforms. Now, so far, this doesn't seem like such a great transformation, right? Because we always crumple the papers, and this looks pretty much like when we normally crumple it. The difference is it already feels different. And you'll notice the difference. And though we could keep on working this, in order for me to get through enough of them, I'm going to have to kind of... But you can already see where this starts getting a little more... It's darker, it's a little bit more translucent, and it also starts shrinking. So you can see it's definitely shrinking. And see how it's just starting to look more translucent than what's next to it? You kind of get more of this glassy kind of look as compared to... See how that's more muted? You can hardly see my hand underneath it, but here you can see my hand right through it. See, it becomes almost transparent. It's beautiful. And so this kind of thing, oh. So normally I'll do some, even of the same papers, I'll do some just crumple like this, some with this technique. So when you go to use your papers, you start getting all these kind of different qualities. So let's put this one to the side. And we could work that one some more, but that one's, you know, it's okay. So let's get some more on our hand. So now that you're kind of getting, you see what we're doing here. You got to get the oil on your hand. And then you want to kind of put the corners in. And I kind of scrunch it a bit. And then I come and get these corners. And I put them in and I scrunch some more. And you just kind of get it till you get a nice ball like that. And you're just getting that oil in there. And it's funny, when you do it enough, you'll start hearing the paper will begin to change. The sound of the paper starts changing. And that's when you know that it's getting that quality. Part of it for me is the sound. Part of it is I can tell it starts getting more glassine. So you just do this and, you know, listen to music, have your beverage of choice, and you just have at it. It's Momigami, M-O-M-I-G-A-M-I. Traditional technique with Asian papers. Oh, now this is just... What happens is it starts getting so much more fabric-like. Let's get some more. This one has a way to go. You know, like you want to do it until it starts like it's like this. Hear that? Compared to, hear how crunchy it is. So I always go by the sound too. And once you start getting these corners soft, then you can kind of just pick them up and start working them. You don't have to roll the corners in any longer because there's enough oil in them now that it's not going to, they're not going to tear. And you can kind of now just really work around the paper. You just want to, you hear the sound it's making? Okay. You just rub your oil, rub the oil on it. Some more. Oh, Seth reached out to me a few days ago, sending me some Christmas presents. Some more iZinks. He knows how much I love them. And I was on his design team, as you guys know, and I got a lot of them sent to me as a design team member. And then this past year, he didn't have a design team, you know, and he kind of always said he was going to do it for a period of time and then stop and do it. I get it, because as artists, when we have a lot going on, it's a lot of commitment when you take on a lot of extra projects. And so I'd like to do the same thing, do things in waves and then stop it and do things. But there's new colors coming out. So he said, I'm going to send you some new colors as a gift. I'm like, oh, boy, the best gift. So I'm excited. So after Christmas, in the new year, we're going to be working with some new colors and those iZink. Now you see how the sound is different now? See? That's the sound. You know, you can even let the sound help dictate. It's not all crunchy sounding. Oh, look at that. So let's compare it. I love comparing them because that goes a long way for saying how, see how they shrink? Look at it. It shrinks, and it's because the fibers are still long fiber and they're taking up those oils. So it shrinks, and it, see how much darker it is? It just like really brings out the richness even more so, and it looks like paper. I mean, it looks like fabric. And it feels a lot like fabric too. It'll act like fabric. So let's put this one up here. Nice. Oh, you guys are gonna love this. So this little piece is on some Asian paper. This is a little bit of vintage paper, but that's a small piece. Let's do this one. And this one, you can kind of crunch those ends in. It's a small piece, and it was already kind of a softer paper. But I wanted to show you how it's going to... This one will go pretty quickly, but just want to show you the change in color, because this will get almost like glassine. You're going to rub it in your hands. You can see that one went quickly because it was a thin piece and it's already some Asian paper, and see the difference. I mean, I could work it more, but you can already see the difference at how translucent it is. And that one still could get more, because see here in the middle, like it's still light there. So you can also look at your paper and sort of see the differences. And now the other thing that you want to do is I let these hang up in my studio and dry, because they need to dry for, you know, a week or so, 10 days. You really want, you just let the oil come out of it. If you feel that you have a bit too much oil in, you can also put them between like sheets of paper, like, you know, copier paper, and let them stay like that. See how it'll pull oil out? You can start seeing where the oil is, let me show you, is leaching out right there. See that? So you could do some of that when you're done. And then let them dry. So what I do is I just take a coat hanger, and using some of my clips like this, I just take them and clip it to a hanger. So any kind of clips or paper clips or something you have, just clip it around the hanger and just let them hang out. I put several sheets on a hanger, you know, and just let them air dry. And within 7 or 10 days, they're good and they're ready for you to use in your work. And most of all that oil will come out. Like this oil is out of here now that I could use it. So yeah, you just want to let them dry until you can, and you can also iron them between waste papers, you know, and get oil out like that. But then you want to crumple them down. So I generally don't iron them. I normally have, you know, make enough so that I'll let them just hang up and dry. And then, like, see, this could still use some more oil, because when you see these sort of light places, see how that still looks a little light there, but it's still good. So let's go on to let's go on to a piece of copier paper. Now this is just our, you know, copier paper, good old-fashioned copier paper that we had done the staining on. Look how this is going to change. It's so impressive. So paper bags, old, you know, like a lot of paper bags that you get when you're traveling. You know, I don't know if you guys are like me, but I'll travel to various places, and then you get the neat paper bags, especially in Europe. You're in France, you're in Italy, you know, Amsterdam, and it seems like the stores have the neatest paper bags, and I save them because they're pretty, but then you're like, okay, what do I do with them? This technique is perfect for that because it takes a regular old paper bag that has some neat printing or wording on it that reminds you of your trip or whatever, and then you can turn it into this Momigami paper and then use it in your work, and it's just incredible. It is amazing what it does with the paper bag. Now this is going to take us working it longer, so we're going to work this piece so you can really see what I mean. I wanted to start off with a softer paper so you get your technique of crumbling in the corners and just kind of get a feel for what this is. So make sure you start off with your tissue papers, your softer papers, and then see how we can start, how it's starting to crumble in no problem. This is going to definitely take more oil because this paper is wood pulp, right? So it's already going to be a much stiffer paper. It's different fiber. It's not nearly the beautiful long fiber of the Asian papers, or of course the tissue paper are short fibers, so they're easy to work with. But see, this is starting to still crunchy sounding, but see, it's starting to be a little bit more pliable. I love this technique. I mean, already this is starting to look more, see, fabric-y. So even this waste paper that we just used to be a paper to do our staining on so that we could move our papers around that were very wet so they wouldn't rip, actually becomes like great paper to do this Momigami on and use in our work. Okay. It's coming along, but this one definitely has a way to go because see how versus see how this has like a deeper fabric sound. So I let the sound dictate too. So I like to show you all that because you'll be working this in your studio and it's kind of hard because you can't see my papers. It's kind of hard to know, am I there yet? Because it's already looking pretty. But if it still feels too much like paper, then it's not ready yet. Put it back in the oven. Because you want it to look more like fabric. The other thing I use is if it's still like really light, it still looks kind of like the paper color where it doesn't look like it's starting to go translucent, then that's another sign. So you just kind of want to keep on opening it up, and then, you know, you're just kind of getting your oil in different parts of it. You're just kind of rolling it off your hands. This is really good exercise for the hands too. Not only is it nice for the skin, but even like if your fingers are tight, I mean stiff or a little bit arthritic and what have you, it's amazing how this really is good. It's good purposeful exercise. You know, if someone were to tell you, oh yeah, do the exercise balls or do this, it's good for your, you know, you sit around all day long thinking, oh, I don't want to do that. That hurts. But if you do something like this, the oils themselves are healing, and that's going into your skin and into the muscles and the joints. And then you're doing something you enjoy doing, and you're listening to a podcast. You got some music, you got your tea, your coffee, or some wine or something like that. And you're in your happy place. And then it's like your hands are more cooperative. So even if you have some, because my mother-in-law has really acute arthritis in her hands, and she loves doing this with me, you know, because it's like she loves washing the dishes. That's the hot water running on her hands, anything like this. If she can do stuff like this, she'll, oh, let me do it, I'll help. Because it like at first it's stiff and it's like, but once she gets going and she's happy and we're talking, it's the best. So I just want to encourage you, even if your hands are a bit stiff and you're experiencing some arthritic conditions, don't let that stop you. Just give it a try. Just give it a shot. So let's look at how it's going to look different already. And this one, we could still do more. But look at the difference. Wow. Already. See? I mean, it doesn't even look like the same paper. That's what's always so amazing. Like, this is already cool, but this is way cooler, right? And it just starts taking on, you wouldn't think it was copier paper. It just takes on the that feeling of fabric, like, but this one could still do more. But I'll stop and go to the next one because it's a few more that I want to do, so I don't want to. So let's take this. This is a piece of copier paper still that is been photocopied. So this is like from my printables. So you can take any printables that you have. Now remember, this is, we want to start by fold in the corners, fold in this corner, because when it's in the beginning, it's very stiff. And you don't want to rip it. So you want to kind of get those corners folded in and then start getting the oil on it. This is great to do with your jelly prints. You can see how it's already, the oil is already starting to get the ink from the print is starting to bleed through already. You can see there in those places. You don't really need that much oil either. Get a lot done. I think I started off with maybe, I started off like with a half ounce. It was probably about a half ounce in here, or 30 milliliters. And I've been doing this. You get a lot. You get the oil goes a good ways. So. See how you can tell from the back that it's starting to stain through. So all kind of magazine. I didn't bring any magazines here to the desk, but after we do this one, it'll be time for me to reset, I think, the timer, and I'll see. I'll find some. Just so you can see different type of papers before you get started on yours. So, you can just really rub it in your hand and really get the papers to absorb the oil, and then ball it back up. So you literally can just make, from your stash of papers, just make a lot of different Momigami, so that you can really have at this process. This is good to use, like you could use, now we have those pads of, this is looking good. See, it just starts really, and this one could still use more because you can still see there's a lot more. When you see like this white like that, I like to try to get it so that it's all, gone. So this, we could work this some more, but this gives you an idea. It's a good start. And let's see, where's the difference between this one and this one. You can see the difference. Look how small it is and how much darker it is. It really gets darker. I love that about it. And it shrinks. So you get that shrinkage as well. Okay. Let's do this one. And then I'll find a couple of others. We'll find kind of like a spent jelly print, so you can see what that will do. And magazine or book. Now this, see, look at how this is very, I don't know how this is going to do because this is old paper. It's very, now see, this book paper has seen better days. It just crumpled up. So you'll have some paper that you'll experiment with. And look, this just crumpled to nothing because it's a very old dictionary. And though it had paint on it, I thought because it had some paint on it, that it would stand up, but look, it just disintegrated. So it's very brittle paper anyway. So that, you know, you might find some papers just don't work because they're just way too brittle. But then, you know, no crazy me, like I'll let these pieces dry and probably still use them. Okay, I'll be back with a couple of different other papers. Okay, so I've gone into my stash and got a few more things that I thought would be of interest for you to see this process with. So I got this, you know, these books of, you know, sort of, what are these papers? I always never, they're not journal, they're like journaling papers and scrapbook papers and stuff like that. And I like these damask ones. So what we're going to do is, let's take just a piece. Let's take a bigger piece than that. It's kind of hard to do small pieces. But at least you can see what the color variation is going to be. That one, we're going to have a magazine, piece of magazine. This is a Gelli print that's on tissue paper. So let's just see, you know. And then I pulled this one because this is a photocopy of some, you know, burro and, you know, and sashimi. It's just a section that I took something off the internet. So I thought, let's do this one because this is going to be cool. It's going to, like, it's a photo of fabric that's going to end up looking like fabric and really add to your collages. So a lot of times these fabrics are hard to come by, you know. And so you could literally go online, find, you know, sections of photographs of fabric. I mean, there's really no copyright problems with anything like this. And then, but by the time you do this process with it, it's just going to look like a piece of fabric. So let's get started. Let's do this one first. So this is acrylic on tissue paper, the white tissue paper. Isn't that funny how this just disintegrates? I have to be very careful with this. Even when I'm printing with it, I have to be super careful because it's from a really old dictionary book and you just look at it and the paper wants to fall apart. But I still like that old paper look, so, you know. But normally when I use it, I glue it. I have to glue it down in the collage. But it didn't like that crumbling at all. So you'll find that. You'll probably come across papers that you want to try and you'll see. So we open it up. This is looking good. So you can take your Gelli prints and do this. It's going to give it more of a fabric look. Almost like maybe you printed on fabric or something like that. So you just, when you kind of get it down into a good ball, just open it back up and get it going again. And I like to really make sure that I've got oil on these corners. So I open them up, straighten them out, and then crumple them again. So you can hear that this one still has a ways to go. It still sounds a bit crunchy. But it's getting there. So already you can just see the difference in this. And you know, already starting to see my hand through it. And this still has a ways to go. I could keep on working this. Because right there I can see that there's still a lot of paper. You know, it doesn't have enough oil in it. So just rub some more on your hands and so we'll go on to this. Let's go on to this piece of old indigo fabric with the stitching. But this is just good. I mean, just makes your Gelli prints look like something completely different. I love it. just all of a sudden, they just have this really beautiful texture to them. But I would continue to work this one. It's not done yet. It could use some more. But, and even look at the back side of it. But you can see my hands through it. Like all of a sudden, it's far more translucent. Okay. So let's take this piece. Now this again is on copier paper. So we need to, you know, the first go at it. You want to get these corners in. And get these corners in. And then once you kind of get it to something that looks like that, then I kind of start balling it. And then I fold it in on itself. So basically it's going to be folded in like that first. And then start scrunching. And that's a good way to kind of work it so that it doesn't rip. Okay, so we open it up. And then just kind of open these corners and then start folding it in on itself again. Okay. Get some more oil. So you can see from the back it's starting to come through, right? But all that white, we want all that gone. I'm really excited to see how this one's going to look. It's really going to look like a piece of cloth. So this is a really wonderful way, like if you can't get your hands on vintage fabric scraps, you know, like sometimes if you're like me, you're looking at people on Instagram or YouTube and places, and it seems like, where do they find that? And then they'll say, oh, I went out such and such, or I went at a yard sale, or I went to this place and that place. I just found all of this fabric for $1. And you're like, oh, why couldn't I find that for $1? You know, that kind of thing. And maybe you live somewhere where you don't have a lot of, you know, those kind of yard sales where you can't get out to the, you know, the Goodwills or the Salvation Armies. And then sometimes you live in areas where your Goodwills and Salvation Armies just don't seem to ever get anything good. I know I've lived places or gone to ones and it's like, it's nothing in here. Like consistently, there'll be nothing in those places. And the other ones you go to and it's just overrun with all kind of good stuff. So I don't know what that's all about. But you could certainly get, like I said, go through the internet, find fabrics you like old fabrics, and oh my goodness, and you do this technique with it, you got instant vintage fabric scraps for your collages and your artwork. See how this is really starting to look like fabric? Oh, and it still has a ways to go because you can look, I normally go to the back and I can tell by how much is bleeding through. Like there, it still needs more work. And you'll learn, you know, how much it's going to take, when to stop, what you like. You might stop in different places for different looks. So just have fun with it and you'll learn your own, you know, kind of rhythm to this. But this is really, this technique is a keeper. I love it. You know, I've done Asian paper making. I've studied paper making quite a long time ago in apprenticing style. And you know quite a bit about hand paper making, Eastern and Western. And so we used to do a lot of different techniques. And Momigami was one of the ones that you do a lot on the papers. So like I said, we could do, it's starting to get fabric-y, but hear that, it's still kind of papery. So we would want to keep on working it, but just look at this. And let's look at it compared to, look at that. Ah, that doesn't look like fabric. I mean, if you look at it, you can really see, you can just really, that looks like fabric. You can see the texture, everything. So to be able to use that in your artwork, the best. So, but like I said, I would still work this. It still probably has 3 or 4 more times of doing this to really get it. And just kind of roll. See how I'm rolling it off my hands? You just kind of roll it. That's what I do. And it kind of keeps the paper. So you get to the point where the paper is pretty much open as opposed to being in a complete ball. And you're just kind of rolling it sort of like in a slightly open state so that you're really working those fibers. Some good old, just go to your kitchen cabinet, grab some olive oil or some jojoba. Or you really want like a lightweight oil. I try to use light oils. That way they kind of disperse out of the papers pretty quickly. The thicker they are, the longer it'll take for it to dry out and, you know, allow you to get to the place of using those papers. But look at that. So we kind of do that against some of the earlier ones we're doing. Look at that. This all just looks like, this is the one I did before. You see how it just all starts looking like fiber. Okay, so let's go on to, I mean, look at this with this. This is just, if they both look like fabrics. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this paper, and we'll do the magazine last. So you see here, this is some more of like, you know, copier style paper. So it's going to be very stiff. So you really want to get these ends folded in. See, I'm folding it in almost like a boat. You see, they kind of, I like to fold them in like this and then fold them, crunch it like that so that it just kind of goes in half. And that's good enough to start working it without getting the paper to rip. You know, if you can get through this first stage, these opening stages of your paper not ripping, and even if it rips, so what? You know, you'll still use it. I know I have. But the goal is to try to do it so that kind of maintain the integrity of it so that you can really get it to that nice fabric-y. And this paper is a little stiffer, this, you know, this scrapbook kind of paper. But if you have that paper, you know, like, I don't have very much of it, but I do like that one that has the best of the mask. And I've used this paper a lot. It's almost gone. But sometimes you have other ones that you're not all that crazy about. You're like, what am I going to do with these? Do some mark making on them and then do this Momigami. You know, so you kind of do, you know, you can do your, the rubber band one that we've done. You can just do your brush work on it. You know, just do some mark making and then do the Momigami and you will transform even the ugliest of scrapbooking paper. And you know how, like, you don't want to throw it away, but you're like, oh, will I ever use this? Yep, just do some of that on it and, you know, you begin to transform it. So the more I work this is going to start looking like some old fabric or wallpaper. Because the pattern, you know, this kind of has that look to it. Wallpaper. Or fabric too. See how I'm rolling it off my fingers? It's just kind of, you'll get your technique, but the more surface that you can use to keep on getting the oil on, and then the heat from your hands warms up the fibers, and then they just start expanding and taking the oil in. So, you know, you have kind of the heat, the friction, the oil, the movement, and it really starts encouraging the fibers to do what you want them to do. This paper's tearing a little bit, but it's probably, I'm being a little rough with it too soon. But that's okay, because that just adds to making it look more like old wallpaper or something. So we could keep on working this, of course. We're not anywhere near done, but just to kind of show you. So let's look at the one we took it from. See, already it's completely different. I mean, this already just gives it an aged So much more interesting than this piece. So much more interesting. Because it darkens it, and you still have all the staining that's in the original, but just looks good. And like I said, we still have a ways to go, because we can look at the back and still see there's a lot of white areas there. But just for the sake of moving this along, because I know you guys probably have already paused me and got your oil and got your papers, and probably have turned me back on and listening to you while you start working. But that looks good, and you can sort of see how these papers together, you know, you just start getting these really classic, yummy pieces of paper. So let's do the magazine. Okay, so rub it. Now remember, we're going to take it from the edge. The magazine paper is a little more, it can be a little brittle too, with all the inks on it. So it'll have a tendency to rip more than the other papers we were using, but it's still, the effects that you get is still just amazing. So you just have to be a little bit, you know, careful with it. And it will also, the ink on it will bleed a little bit. Just get a really nice look. They're already starting to get. So just kind of go easy in the beginning, especially on these more brittle papers. Oil is your friend, so just, you see it's very crunchy, so you just want to kind of go with it. So yeah, so I hope you find this technique fun and something neat to add to your repertoire while you're enjoying your holidays and getting stuff ready for next year, and your journaling and collage work. Go back and find some of those jelly prints that were just so, and some of your papers that, you know, were just okay. Maybe some images in a magazine you like, but you really would prefer them not to look like magazine paper. Magazines really do make some very interesting papers, when you, especially when you go full on in this technique, when you really break it down and get it, get the paper saturated with oil. Like, it's already getting darker, but we need to get more oil in there. So let's see. I think that's everything. So, probably the second week in January, we're going to get started with the actual Gelli Junkadori. I'm just kind of putting my video schedule together and just really working a lot of stuff out. So I'm kind of using this period of time. But if not, I have a book project that, you know, or, you know, like I'll put up, we'll see exactly what I'm going to do. There'll be something up on Saturday, but we'll just have to see what it's going to be on the 1st. I need to see, because I'm just kind of, you know, working through for next year. And right now my mind is everywhere because I've got a lot of plans and, you know, all this different things I'm ironing out. So, but look at this. See, it's really gotten, here it's softer. Still a little crunchy, but it's much softer. And it's, you can see how you can, you know, it's becoming translucent. But what I like about the magazine paper too is that all of a sudden this whole area, palm tree and this, it just becomes a beautiful paper, you know, like you can really work with the colors that, you know, that comes off of the magazine pages and use them in sections. you know, begin to kind of like, even like how we have this blue, look how beautiful that this can work together, you know, with this image here. And, you know, just as you start collaging, you can kind of start seeing how things will begin to work together. So, let's just look at everything. So I think you guys got a good idea of Momigami with oil. So you can, you know, just start having at it with your papers. Kind of look at this, just looks so good. Love it. All of these are just yum. And it's amazing how you can see how they can all start working together. This is just that little piece of the printable. Nice. This is from last week. Oh, these papers are just so much like fabric. And then this is a jelly print, which just is a wonderful place to start. Even you could tear it up and use it as collage pieces, or you could kind of begin to use it as a reference point to start collaging other things on top of it. You know, and it just becomes your background foundation. So yeah, lots of goodies. So hopefully you all really enjoyed that. Really take time and celebrate the fact that you have finished your journals. We went 52 weeks together and had a lot of fun, made a lot of discoveries. I'm looking forward to next year in our project. So in the meantime, for those of you who are celebrating the holidays coming up, please have a wonderful holiday, Merry Christmas, and time with your family. Happy Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and, you know, whatever you're celebrating. And of course, just winter solstice. Yesterday, I was just this week, I'm always empowered by the solstice. And I just love celebrating the winter solstice so much. So much to be thankful for. And yeah, so have fun with this, and I will see you all again in the new year. We'll start fresh with lots of fun things and projects going, and journaling time and stories and sharing. And once again, thank you for hanging out with me this year. It means so much to me, and being a part of this YouTube community. Love you guys, and I will see you soon. Bye-bye. Also, if you're new to the channel, this is the first video you come across. It's amazing how every time, just about every week, there are new people who come across the videos. Please, if you enjoyed it, and for those of you who are always here, always thumb it up. That causes more people to see this and come into our community. And if you're new, please hit the bell, hit all, so you'll get all the notifications. And I think that's everything. Love you all. Take care, and see you in the new year. Bye-bye.